never intended for my life to spiral into chaos. For years, I had been the dutiful wife, the one who stood by my husband, Jeremy, through thick and thin. But somewhere along the way, I lost myself in the monotony of routine. The late nights, the missed dinners, the emotional distance, each day felt heavier than the last. Jeremy was a devoted husband, but he was also a man consumed by his career, a reality that left me feeling isolated and unimportant. It was at a company dinner that I first met Eric. He was everything Jeremy was not, charming, charismatic, and full of life. As he spoke, his eyes sparkled with ambition and confidence, and I felt an undeniable attraction that sent shivers down my spine. I didn't want to feel this way, but the thrill of his attention was intoxicating. As I listened to him regale stories of his corporate victories, I felt a flicker of something I hadn't felt in years: desire. The affair began innocuously, with casual texts and flirtatious banter. I convinced myself it was harmless, a way to reclaim a part of myself that had been lost in my marriage. I told myself I was justified in seeking attention from someone who appreciated me, someone who made me feel alive. But as the days turned into weeks, my justifications began to crumble. I was playing with fire, and I knew it. Each moment I spent with Eric felt like a betrayal to Jeremy, yet the thrill of the affair overshadowed the guilt. I often replayed the moments leading up to our first kiss, how his fingers brushed against my arm as he leaned in to whisper, how his lips found mine with a hunger that ignited a passion I had long forgotten. In that moment, I felt liberated, powerful, and utterly reckless. But with every stolen moment, I felt a gnawing sense of dread. I was betraying the man who had stood by me through everything, the man who believed in our vows. I was not just cheating on him, I was tearing apart the very fabric of our life together. As the affair progressed, I became more adept at hiding the truth. I started to lie, weaving a web of deceit that felt heavier with every passing day. But Jeremy began to notice the changes in me. He could see the flicker of guilt in my eyes, the way I hesitated before answering his questions. The silence between us grew, suffocating in its intensity. Jeremy started losing weight, his once vibrant demeanor replaced by a ghost of the man I had married. His eyes, once filled with warmth and laughter, now held a haunting emptiness that pierced my soul. I watched as he spiraled into silence, withdrawing from our conversations and spending more time at work. He was crumbling right before my eyes, and with each passing day I felt the weight of my betrayal heavy in my chest. The guilt was unbearable. I wanted to confess, to tell him everything, and beg for forgiveness, but the thought paralyzed me. I was terrified of losing him, terrified of facing the consequences of my actions. So I continued the affair, hoping it would somehow fill the void I had created. One night, as I lay in bed next to Jeremy, I couldn't shake the feeling of impending doom. I could hear his shallow breaths, feel the tension radiating from his body. I wanted to reach out, to comfort him, but I felt like a stranger in my own home. I had built a wall between us, and I didn't know how to tear it down. That evening, as Jeremy prepared for another late-night work call, I received a text from Eric. It was a simple message, but it ignited a fire in me. I felt the rush of adrenaline as I snuck out of the house, heart racing with anticipation. I knew it was wrong, but the thrill of the affair had become an addiction I couldn't shake. As I entered Eric's apartment, I felt a mix of elation and dread. I was living a double life, and I was terrified of what would happen if Jeremy ever found out. But in the heat of passion, everything else faded away. It was just us, and in that moment, I felt powerful. But the euphoria was short-lived. The next morning, I received a phone call that would shatter my world. Jeremy had been in a car accident on his way home from work. I rushed to the hospital, panic coursing through my veins. When I saw him lying there, bruised and broken, a wave of guilt washed over me. I felt like a monster, and the weight of my betrayal felt unbearable. As Jeremy lay in the hospital bed, I watched helplessly as he fought to regain his strength. The doctors assured me he would recover, but I could see the pain in his eyes. He was still reeling from the accident, but I knew that deep down, he was also struggling with the emotional turmoil I had caused. One evening, as I sat beside him, he turned to me with a vulnerability I had never seen before. "What happened to us, Sarah?" he asked, his voice trembling. "I feel like I'm losing you." His words pierced my heart like a dagger. I could no longer hide behind the facade of normalcy. The weight of my guilt crashed down on me, and I knew I had to confess. "Jeremy, I need to tell you something," I began, my voice shaking. "I've made a terrible mistake." As the words spilled from my lips, I watched as his expression morphed from confusion to heartbreak. I could see the betrayal wash over him, the realization that the woman he loved had shattered his trust. It felt like I was watching him crumble piece by piece, and the pain in his eyes was unbearable. In the days that followed, we barely spoke. Jeremy withdrew into himself, his silence deafening. I wanted to comfort him, to tell him how sorry I was, but the damage was done. I had torn apart the life we had built together, and I was left to grapple with the reality of my actions. The guilt consumed me, and I felt like I was drowning in a sea of shame. Jeremy's recovery was slow, both physically and emotionally. I watched as he struggled to regain his strength, and the weight of my betrayal loomed over us like a dark cloud. I could see the toll it was taking on him. His eyes were hollow, his laughter absent. I felt like a ghost in my own home, haunted by the choices I had made. The affair with Eric had promised excitement and validation, but it had come at a terrible cost. I had sought revenge for my feelings of neglect, but I had only succeeded in pushing Jeremy further away. The power I had felt in those stolen moments was now a distant memory, replaced by the crushing reality of my actions. As Jeremy continued to heal, I found myself grappling with the consequences of my choices. I sought therapy, hoping to make sense of my actions and the pain I had inflicted. I began to understand that my betrayal was rooted in my own insecurities and fears, but it didn't erase the hurt I had caused. One evening, as we sat in silence, Jeremy finally spoke. "I can't keep pretending everything is okay, Sarah," he said, his voice heavy with emotion. "I need to know if you still love me." His words struck a chord deep within me. I realized that love wasn't just about the grand gestures. It was about honesty, trust, and vulnerability. I looked into his eyes, searching for the man I had once known. "I do love you, Jeremy," I said, tears streaming down my face. "I'm so sorry for what I did. I never wanted to hurt you." But I could see the doubt in his eyes. The road to rebuilding our relationship would be long and fraught with challenges. Trust, once shattered, was not easily repaired, and I knew that it would take time and effort to heal the wounds I had inflicted. In the weeks that followed, we began to navigate the difficult terrain of rebuilding our relationship. It was messy and painful, filled with tears and hard conversations. We both had to confront the reality of our marriage, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I learned to listen, to be present, and to communicate openly. Jeremy began to share his feelings, his fears, and his insecurities. It was a slow process, but with each passing day, I could feel the walls between us starting to crumble. We were both vulnerable, and in that vulnerability, we found a path toward healing. But the journey was far from easy. There were moments of doubt, moments when the ghosts of the past threatened to resurface. I had to confront my own demons, my insecurities, my need for validation, and my fear of being alone. It was a painful process, but I was determined to fight for the love we once shared. Months passed, and while the scars of betrayal remained, they began to fade into a distant memory. I watched as Jeremy regained his strength, both physically and emotionally. His laughter returned, and I could see the sparkle in his eyes once more. We began to rediscover the joy in our relationship, learning to appreciate the little moments that had once gone unnoticed. We went on date nights, shared our dreams, and learned to communicate openly without fear. The affair had shattered our trust, but it had also forced us to confront the issues that had been lurking beneath the surface. We were learning to love each other in new ways, rebuilding the foundation of our marriage, brick by brick. As I look back on the journey we've taken, I realize that betrayal can either destroy a relationship or serve as a catalyst for growth. I chose the latter. I fought for my marriage, for the love that we had built together. It wasn't easy, and there were days when I doubted whether we would make it. But we persevered. I learned that love is not just a feeling, it's a commitment. A commitment to honesty, to vulnerability, and to growth. I will carry the weight of my betrayal with me, but I refuse to let it define our future. In the end, I cheated with my husband's boss in a moment of weakness, seeking revenge for the emotional neglect I felt. But what I didn't expect was to witness my husband's slow unraveling. The pain I had caused him, and the realization that my moment of power cost me everything I loved. Now, as I stand beside him, I am determined to rebuild what was lost and create a future filled with love, trust, and understanding. It's a journey of forgiveness, healing, and redemption, a testament to the resilience of the human heart and the power of love to overcome even the darkest betrayals. And though the scars will always remain, they serve as a reminder of how far we've come and how much stronger we are together.